And today I wanted to continue with the question, why aren't you losing weight? Or why maybe you're gaining weight? And so I've already made a video and I'll link it down below. But there were certain elements that I wanted to add to that video that I deemed to be very important. And so in that video, I spoke about the fact that when you are in that situation, when you're asking yourself that question, why am I not losing weight? It's because there is a part of you that thinks that you should be in a certain way. And so you're imposing it upon your body, and you're not listening to what your body is actually telling you through that weight gain or through that excess weight. And so the whole idea, and when that happens, when you have these two parts where this one is like, I need to lose weight, and then there's that other one that is willful, that doesn't want to cooperate, and there is this disconnection between the two, then there's an inner battle that is inside of you. And so you will yo-yo, right? You'll go from, I have to lose weight, into, oh my God, this is too much pressure. And you just let go completely, right? And so in order to resolve that, what do? You start connecting with the one that wants to lose weight. Why is it? And get to know the desire that is there, the fear that is there. And then you understand the body. Right? It goes automatically. And when then the two start talking together, start creating, there's this relationship that creates inside of you. There's a peace that happens, right? There's a knowing of yourself that happens. There's also a feeling of safety and security that comes in. You start feeling safe in your body, because when you're saying, I have to lose weight, it's out of a sense of unsafety, a sense of, I can't trust my body. I can't trust what is happening in the moment. I'm not going to even listen to myself. Do you see how that feels unsafe? And so automatically, there's also that excess weight that comes in, or that continues, right? And you haven't solved the problem. You haven't gone into the stressor. So that's what I was talking about in that video. And today I want to continue with another element, which is boundaries, right? Boundaries, personal boundaries. And so in this video, what I'll explain is that how personal boundaries are important, or how you developing those personal boundaries may help you, with that excess weight, right? And I'll explain why, how it's linked with personal boundaries and what personal boundaries are. So let me start with personal boundaries so that you're very clear, and then you'll understand how it may be linked with excess weight, right? Because it's not for everyone, it's for certain people. So, I heard a lot of times, I don't know about you, but the word personal boundaries is all over. I mean, people talk about it here and there. And for a long time in my life, I could not understand what it was. It felt like some, I don't know, frontier that I have. It wasn't very clear. So I didn't know what it was. And then I didn't know how to work with personal boundaries. I didn't know what they were about. And they're very important, so that's why I'm bringing them in. So, personal boundaries, let's start from the beginning. Imagine that this whole universe is a blob, right? Everything is interlinked, right? Everything is one. And you can't distinguish anything. It's just one blob of colors, and you can't see anything. There's nothing that stands out. It's all one, right? It's a mix, a melange, right? A chaos. And then suddenly, when you start looking more and more deeply into it, what will happen that at some point you will start seeing a contour, right? You'll start seeing a very specific color. You'll start seeing creatures, trees, etc., etc. You start seeing that there are different elements to it, and every element has its own definition, right? It has its own color, it has its own specificity, its own characteristics, etc., etc. Those are boundaries. So what boundaries are is your sense of self. It's how you're defined, how you define yourself. And it's also what makes you stand out from other people. So what happens is, let me give you an example. A sense, and what it is made of is values. Values are boundaries. Likes, preferences, needs, desires, emotions, thoughts. All these things, all these ingredients is put together, define who you are. They give you a sense of self. They define your temporal self. And this is very important. Why? Because when you are in a relationship, let's say that you are in a relationship with somebody else. You like coffee, they like tea. That's a boundary. And so imagine that now you are together, and that boundary usually is not going to cause a lot of problems. Now let me go further. Imagine that you like peace. You like silence, not peace. You like silence. And they like noise. I mean, they like music, very loud music. That is also a boundary. And this boundary, these two boundaries, they may clash, right? This is what defines you. Silence is what defines you. Loud music is what defines them, right? Their sense of self, right? And here is where problems start coming. And this is what happens in relationships, that many times we don't have a very defined sense of self. Many people don't have it at all. And so you get into relationships, you're not clear about who you are, what you are. You don't have a solid core. The other person doesn't have a solid core, or maybe they do. If they do, they will impose themselves upon you, or you'll be imposing yourself upon them. And then this clash happens, right? And that's when, if you have a very solid sense of self, then you can be very clear with the other person. The other person is clear with you, and you can come up with solutions, with ways to work together to make that relationship work. And there will be certain boundaries that are just not going to be compatible. And these boundaries are going to make it so that the relationship can't happen. And if you're aware of that, you're just not going to even engage in that, right? So how is this? And by the way, I want to add that I got this information, I got this incredible knowledge about boundaries, which I really love, and it's made it so clear for me, from a teacher that is called Teal Swan. And I think she's the only one that has ever explained it so well, and that's what I use. And I'll put a link down below, because it's really her that taught me that. And I want to acknowledge that. So anyways, so how is it linked with weight loss, with weight gain, or, that excess weight? Let me talk a little bit also about women. For many women, having boundaries is a no-no. For many women, we've been taught not to have boundaries. So what happens is that, for example, there is, let's say, I see that a lot when there is like, a choice to be made. A group of people going to a restaurant or somewhere else. And there is usually that woman, I'm not saying it's only women, but most of the time, and she's going to say, I'm fine with everything. If she says it once or twice, it's okay. I mean, sometimes you are that flexible. Why not, right? But most of the time, it's because she has no boundaries. She believes that she doesn't have the right to have those boundaries. That she believes that she doesn't have the right to bring out her preference. And many women have been taught that. It's just something that is very pervasive. And so, if you have no boundaries, if you don't have the right to have that solid core, your core is going to be very air-like. So when you are in relationships with other people, you are not going to want to be solid, because that's bad, right? Because that will make you for many women, it's like, if I have a solid core, if I tell my preferences, I'm not going to be liked. So I am going to be liked if I'm like air. I'm almost transparent. And so what happens is that if you do that, you will start, the way you live in relationships, the way you interact, is by becoming almost a white canvas. You become like air, and you bend in accordance to their preferences. You become what they want you to become. And so there's this, like, every time it's you're always looking up out there for what they want, what they say is right, etc. Another way, I remember once I was seeing this woman, and she was sitting with her family, with her kids, with her husband, and with her, I think, mother-in-law and father-in-law, or her parents. I don't know. But I was seeing from afar, and I was seeing the way she was. And she was all nice, all sweet. And everyone was looking at her. Everybody's attention was on her. Because the children were asking her for something there, for food or something else. The husband was telling her something about his experience. The parents were asking her for some information. And so she was in the center of attention. It's great, right? She was liked and all that. And in that moment, I could see that she had no sense of self. She was changing for this person, for that. She was becoming what the other person wanted her to become. And she was overweight. And maybe it has nothing to do with that, but for me, that's what I've noticed many times. That excess of that weight comes up because the body, it's like, what is happening in that moment is that you're not taking your rightful place in this life. You're literally going like this, right? You're becoming like the other person. You're bending backwards for the other person, in accordance, not for the other person, because you're doing it because you want to be accepted, right? You're doing it because you want to have that place, and you think you can't have that place as you. And so in that moment, what happens? I just lost my thoughts. Okay, let me go back. So in that moment, what happens is that, I remember, that there is this energy of, I can't be solid. I can't take my place here. And the body will do that for you. The body will literally start taking that space for you. the more you become almost void and air-like inside, the more you expand. And for some people, this may sound crazy, but this is something that I have noticed. This is my opinion, that body almost wants to, it wants to compensate. It wants to. It's like there is a part of you that is saying, but I want to take that place. I want to have my place here. And if you have that, what will happen is there's going to be a battle that will start happening inside of you, where the more you want to be invisible, the more you want to be transparent, the more you want to be flexible for the other person, the more you'll actually take on weight. And you'll hate your body for that. The body will feel like an enemy to you, and you'll start going against it because you won't understand what it's doing. You don't understand that in that moment it's actually saying, it's crying out for you to take your place in this world. And so it will only go away if you take that place, if you start becoming aware, becoming aware of your boundaries and start building a solid core. The more you do that, the more the body doesn't have to do that, right? And I want you to feel into that, to really realize how that excess weight is not, there's nothing random about it. It's that you don't have a good relationship with it and you're not understanding what it's telling you. And it's time to build that relationship. It's time to know that you have an ally there, that even that is an ally in your life, right? Another example that I want to give you with regards to boundaries and how boundaries are important is that if you don't have any boundaries, because it's good not to have boundaries, it's good to be, very flexible, very, fluid and become like the other. It's good not to ask for anything. It's good not to want anything. You're someone who wants nothing, right? Everybody else wants, but you don't. But you're told that you shouldn't want anything. That should piss you off. Anyways, if you have that, what will happen is that when, for example, a man approaches you and he likes you and he's going towards you, you will not be able to say no. Because you can't, because that makes you a bad person. That will you won't feel good. You will feel not only a bad person, but it will feel unsafe. You don't have, like you literally think that you don't have the right to say, this is what I want, this is what I want, I don't want that. There's a shame there that is holding that in, right? That is keeping you from saying what you want. And let's say that man comes to you and he likes you, but you don't. You will not be able to say no. You will not be able to express the fact that you are not interested. And this will happen with other things. People want to sell things to you. People like that energy that penetrates you, when that comes, you will not be able to stand by what you want or what you don't want, right? So what will happen is that you will start, one of the things you will do, you may do, it's not everybody doing it. Everyone has their own coping mechanisms. And this is a coping one, right? That is used by certain people. But if this is your case, what you will start doing is that you will start saying things, because you can't say it, you will start using your body to repel that person. So you will start, for example, not taking care of your body. You'll start not taking care of your hygiene. You'll start repelling the other person by completely letting yourself go. So it's almost like you're using your body to let that person refuse you, to make that person refuse you, right? So that person says, she's gone weight. I don't like, she's not taking care of herself or whatever. So it's almost like you're trying to take what you have and make it bad so that that person goes away. And that is because you think you have no right to have boundaries. And so you see, even in that moment, that body, that excess weight, or, like other things may come up. That is all happening because you can't set that boundary. And if you did, well, that wouldn't be happening. It would just go away because it has no purpose in your life anymore. And even there, I want you to be very aware of the fact that even that is not against you. That reaction, that coping mechanism is actually for you. It's keeping you safe in that moment. And so even that can be seen is that excess weight, let's say, is an ally. And that it's telling you what to do. And if you connect with it, if you connect with that fear, if you connect with that shame that is keeping you from stating your needs, your wants, your boundaries and all that, your feelings, if you connect with that shame will slowly go away, and your boundaries will come up, and then you will not have to use these kind of strategies to be literally yourself, be safe to be yourself in this world. I think I'll stop it here. I'll be making another video on how to work with boundaries, how to get closer to your boundaries, how to work them, understand them, and etc. So I'll be doing that. I don't want to add too much here, but I just want you to see how there's nothing random in this universe, and everything is about the relationship that you have with it. Meaning, what is your relationship with your body? What is your relationship with your boundaries? When you start getting into that, becoming intimate with everything, like making that intimate connection with everything in your life, suddenly you start realizing why it's there. And when you start realizing why it's there, then you have very concrete elements to work on, to work with. And in this case, and I see this with many women, it's boundaries. It's really understanding your boundaries and getting to know them and starting to develop and construct and build a very deep sense of self, and that will help you, lose that weight that you want to lose so much. Okay, and if you want to work directly with me, there is a link down below. If you have any comments, any questions, let me know down below, and see you in my next video.